one in the desolate aftermath of a devastating viral outbreak during the Christmas season. I found myself wandering through the empty streets draped in haunting silence. I, Robert, was the last man on earth, and the weight of my solitude pressed upon me like a suffocating shroud. The once vibrant decorations now hung lifeless, like airy specters of joy extinguished. Every jingle of a bell echoed through the abandoned city, a reminder of the cheerful festivities that once filled the air. The once lively Christmas trees stood as skeletal remains, adorned with tattered ornaments that swayed in the cold, unforgiving wind. Haunted by my loneliness, I stumbled upon an old shopping mall where remnants of the holiday spirit clung desperately to the past. Amid flickering Christmas lights, I discovered a decrepit Santa's workshop. The vacant eyes of dusty, forgotten toys stared at me with a melancholic longing. As I explored further, I stumbled upon a hidden room filled with decaying presents. A chilling discovery awaited me. Each gift tag bore the name of a loved one lost to the merciless virus. The specters of joyful memories contrasted sharply with the desolation surrounding me. In the corner of the room, a broken music box played a twisted version of a once familiar carol. Its haunting melody resonated with the emptiness of the world, a stark reminder of the joyous festivities that had been silenced forever. As I wept amidst the ruins of Christmas past, I couldn't escape the eerie feeling that I was not truly alone. In the dim light, shadows danced, and whispers of forgotten laughter echoed in the emptiness, as if the spirits of the holiday season lingered, forever trapped in a ghostly celebration of what once was. The darkness seemed to breathe with a life of its own, wrapping around me like a malevolent entity. With a heavy heart, I continued my solitary journey through the desolate city. The silence was broken only by the occasional creaking of a long-abandoned structure or the distant howl of the wind. Every step felt like an echo in a void, a reminder of the void that now occupied my existence. I found myself drawn to a dilapidated department store, its shattered windows reflecting the desolation within. As I entered, the scent of decay and mildew assaulted my senses. The once bustling aisles were now filled with the debris of a world long forgotten. In a corner, I discovered a forgotten Christmas display. Tattered tinsel hung from disheveled shelves, and broken ornaments lay scattered on the floor. A flickering neon sign overhead proclaimed, "Season's Greetings," but there was nothing festive about the scene. A sudden chill ran down my spine as I noticed a faint sound in the distance. A distant chorus of spectral carolers. Their ethereal voices, warped by the emptiness of the world, seemed to beckon me deeper into the heart of the store. Unable to resist, I followed the haunting melody, my footsteps echoing through the desolation. The carolers' voices led me to a forgotten hall where an ancient escalator stood, frozen in time. As I ascended, the chorus grew louder, the melancholic harmony resonating through the space. At the top, I found myself in what appeared to be a forgotten Christmas market. Stalls, now decayed and dilapidated, once held an array of festive goods. Wilted wreaths adorned the makeshift kiosks, and a flickering strand of lights dangled precariously above. The ghostly carolers, invisible but ever-present, continued their mournful serenade. At the center of the market, a towering Christmas tree stood, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. I approached it hesitantly as if expecting the ghost of Christmas past to materialize before me. As I reached out to touch a fragile ornament, a sudden gust of wind extinguished the flickering lights, plunging the area into darkness. The chorus of carolers ceased, leaving me in an oppressive silence. A distant, guttural growl echoed through the empty market, sending shivers down my spine. Fear gripped me as unseen eyes seemed to watch from the shadows. In the dim light, I discerned a figure standing at the edge of the market. It was a shadowy silhouette, vaguely human in form. As I strained my eyes to see, the figure moved closer, revealing a twisted semblance of humanity. Hollow eyes stared back at me from a pallid face and gnarled hands reached out in a grotesque parody of festive cheer. The creature emitted a low, mournful moan, and the chorus of unseen carolers resumed, their haunting voices intertwining with the creature's eerie lament. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. The once dead market now pulsed with an otherworldly energy, a malevolent force that defied the emptiness of the world. The spectral figure continued its approach, and I could feel the weight of its gaze upon me. Desperation seized me, and I fled from the haunted market, the chorus of carolers and the creature's mournful wail fading into the distance. I raced through the decaying aisles, my footsteps echoing through the desolate department store. As I reached the shattered windows and emerged back into the cold night, I realized that the darkness outside had grown more profound. The stars themselves seemed to have dimmed as if the universe mourned the loss of the once thriving world. With a heavy heart, I continued my journey through the desolate city, haunted by the twisted echoes of Christmas past. The ghostly carolers and the spectral figure lingered in the recesses of my mind, a constant reminder that even in the absence of life, the remnants of the holiday season could manifest as something far more chilling. And so, I, Robert, the last man on Earth, wandered through the silent streets caught between the echoes of a bygone celebration and the oppressive emptiness of a world forever changed. The bitter wind howled through the skeletal trees as I, John, stood before the foreboding house on 112 Ocean Avenue. The air carried an unsettling chill, a premonition of the horrors that awaited within. It was Christmas Eve, but any semblance of festive joy was absent in the atmosphere surrounding the infamous Amityville horror house. My family and I had moved into this imposing structure, blissfully unaware of the malevolent history that clung to its walls. The realtor, with a practiced smile that barely masked his unease, handed us the keys, wishing us a happy new life. Little did we know that this new life would be anything but happy. As I crossed the threshold with my wife, Kathy, and our 3 children, a shiver ran down my spine. The grandeur of the house concealed an ominous presence, an unseen force that seemed to watch our every move. The walls whispered with secrets, and the creaking floorboards echoed with a ghostly chorus. Christmas decorations adorned the living room, but their festive charm was tainted by the oppressive atmosphere. The twinkling lights cast airy shadows that danced like malevolent spirits. Despite our attempts to create a warm holiday ambience, the house resisted, rejecting any intrusion of joy. As night fell, the temperature dropped, and a heavy silence settled over the house. I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes followed my every step. The flickering lights on the Christmas tree seemed to mock our futile attempts at normalcy. That night, as we gathered around the fireplace, the flames casting flickering shadows on the walls, an unsettling quiet descended. The children's laughter, once innocent and carefree, now sounded hollow. Kathy's eyes met mine, reflecting the unease that gripped us both. The clock struck midnight, marking the onset of Christmas Day. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted, and an otherworldly coldness enveloped the room. I saw my breath in frosty puffs, and the air itself seemed to thicken with an unseen malevolence. Footsteps echoed from the floor above, though we were the only inhabitants of the house. The children clutched their toys, wide-eyed with fear. Kathy and I exchanged a nervous glance, our attempts to rationalize the sounds falling apart in the face of undeniable dread. We ascended the creaking staircase, the weight of an unseen force pressing upon us. The air grew heavier with each step as if the very atmosphere conspired to suffocate us. The children clung to each other, their faces pale with terror. Upon reaching the second floor, we entered the children's room. The once comforting glow of their nightlight flickered ominously. The room was frigid, and the windows rattled as if protesting against an unnatural intrusion. The temperature seemed to drop further as we noticed a shadowy figure standing in the corner. A spectral child, with hollow eyes and a tattered nightgown, stared at us. The room resonated with a mournful whisper, the ghostly voice of a presence that had lingered long before our arrival. Before our eyes, the apparition dissipated, leaving an oppressive emptiness in its wake. Christmas morning dawned, but the joy that typically accompanied the day was conspicuously absent. The children, despite their tender years, bore witness to the inexplicable events that unfolded within the house. Their laughter had been replaced by a cautious silence, a shared understanding that this place harbored something beyond our comprehension. The days that followed were a descent into madness. The walls seemed to bleed with an otherworldly substance, and a foul odor permeated the air. Strange noises echoed through the halls, whispers, growls, and the anguished cries of unseen entities. Our attempts to escape proved futile, as if the house itself conspired to keep us within its suffocating grasp. As Christmas lights flickered and ornaments shattered without cause, we realized the malevolent force that resided in the house fed on our fear. The once joyful season transformed into a nightmare, a twisted mockery of the holiday spirit. Each attempt to decorate or celebrate was met with an escalation of paranormal activity. One night, as I patrolled the darkened halls in a futile attempt to find solace, I heard a spectral choir singing a haunting rendition of Silent Night. The ethereal voices echoed through the corridors, a chorus of tormented souls, lamenting in unison. The walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the temperature plummeted as if the very essence of Christmas had been twisted into a malevolent force. In the attic, a place we had avoided until desperation drove us to explore every inch of the house, I discovered a collection of old belongings left by previous occupants. Among them was a dusty box filled with family photographs. As I sifted through the images, a chill ran down my spine. The pictures depicted the former residents of the house, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and despair. Each family had experienced the same haunting phenomena that now tormented us. A sense of inevitability settled upon me. We were not the first to fall victim to the malevolent force within these walls, and it seemed unlikely that we would be the last. As the days passed, our sanity unraveled. Shadows danced in the periphery of our vision, and sleep became a refuge from the horrors that awaited in the waking world. The children, once lively and full of wonder, now moved through the house like specters, their innocence stolen by the unseen entities that preyed upon us. One fateful night, as the clock struck midnight, we gathered in the living room. The oppressive silence was shattered by a chorus of tortured wails, the anguished cries of countless souls trapped within the malevolent embrace of the house. The walls seemed to pulse with dark energy, and the air grew thick with an unseen malevolence. In a trance-like state, we followed the ghostly sounds to the basement, an area we had avoided until then. The air grew colder with each step, and a guttural growl emanated from the depths below. The basement door creaked open of its own accord, revealing a staircase that descended into an impenetrable darkness. Compelled by an unseen force, we descended into the abyss. The flickering light of a single bulb cast elongated shadows that danced on the damp walls. The air was heavy with a malevolent presence, and the anguished wails grew louder with each step. In the subterranean chamber, we encountered a ghastly scene. The spirits of the house, tortured and twisted by their anguish, materialized before us. Their hollow eyes bore into our souls, and their ghostly forms writhed in perpetual torment. As we stood paralyzed by the spectral onslaught, a malevolent force manifested, a dark entity that seemed to feed on the suffering of the trapped souls. Its form was twisted and contorted, a manifestation of pure evil that sought to consume everything in its path. In a desperate bid for survival, we retreated from the basement, the ghostly wails echoing behind us. The malevolent force pursued, its unseen claws reaching out to drag us into the abyss. As we ascended the staircase, the very foundations of the house seemed to shake with a supernatural fury. Back in the living room, the oppressive atmosphere intensified. The walls seemed to close in, and the air pulsed with a malevolent energy. The Christmas tree, once a symbol of joy, now stood twisted and contorted, its ornaments dangling like the remnants of shattered dreams. The flickering lights cast grotesque shadows that danced in the encroaching darkness. With a sense of urgency, we gathered in the center of the room. The children clutched their toys, their eyes wide with terror. Kathy and I exchanged a knowing glance. Our only hope lay in breaking free from the sinister grip that had ensnared us. The malevolent force manifested once more, a shadowy presence that loomed over us. It seemed to draw strength from the despair that permeated the air. Unseen hands reached out, clawing at us with an otherworldly intensity. In a desperate attempt to break the cycle of torment, we began to recite Christmas carols. The familiar tunes, once a source of comfort, now became a weapon against the darkness. The children's hesitant voices joined ours, the lyrics echoing through the haunted halls. As the carols filled the air, the malevolent force recoiled. The anguished wails of the trapped spirits diminished, replaced by a discordant cacophony. It seemed as if the very fabric of the house resisted the sounds of joy, as if centuries of suffering fought against the intrusion of festive cheer. Undeterred, we continued to sing. The oppressive force pushed back, but we stood firm. The ethereal choir of tortured souls faded into the background, drowned out by the resilient melody of Christmas carols. A blinding light enveloped us, and the malevolent force retreated. The walls, once bleeding with an otherworldly substance, now stood silent. The air, thick with despair, began to thin. We found ourselves standing in the restored living room, the Christmas tree now bathed in a warm, inviting glow. The malevolent entity, weakened by the power of shared joy, retreated into the shadows. The oppressive silence that had plagued the house lifted, replaced by the distant sounds of carolers singing in the snow-covered streets. The following days brought a fragile sense of normalcy. The once haunted the house began to resemble a home. The walls no longer whispered with secrets, and the children's laughter, though tinged with the echoes of past horrors, carried a newfound innocence. As Christmas approached, we cautiously embraced the holiday spirit. The decorations that had once rebelled against us now adorned the house with a muted elegance. The flickering lights no longer cast twisted shadows, but instead bathed the rooms in a comforting glow. On Christmas Eve, as we gathered around the fireplace, the memories of the malevolent force lingered like a distant nightmare. Yet, the resilience of the human spirit prevailed. The haunting echoes of the Amityville horror house were tempered by the warmth of shared joy and the strength found in the face of unimaginable darkness. The clock struck midnight once again, marking the arrival of Christmas Day. This time, however, the atmosphere was different. The air was charged with a sense of victorious triumph over the malevolent force that had sought to consume us. As we exchanged gifts and shared a festive meal, the haunted past seemed to fade into the background. The children, their innocence reclaimed, played with newfound enthusiasm. Kathy and I, though forever marked by the ordeal, found solace in the shared resilience of our family. The Amityville horror house, once a prison of despair, had become a testament to the enduring power of hope. The malevolent force that had tormented us had been vanquished by the unwavering spirit of Christmas, the collective strength of love, joy, and the indomitable human will. As we looked out into the snow-covered landscape, a serene calm settled over the house. The wind, no longer carrying the howls of tormented souls, whispered a gentle lullaby. The horror that had gripped us was now a distant memory, fading like a phantom in the light of a triumphant Christmas morning. The winter winds cut through the desolate landscape as I, Dr. Hess Green, approached the imposing mansion that would become both my refuge and my curse. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the snow-covered grounds. It was Christmas Eve, a night that should have been filled with warmth, laughter, and the comforting embrace of loved ones. Yet, as I crossed the threshold of the mansion, a foreboding silence enveloped me. The grandeur of the estate stood in stark contrast to the darkness that clung to its walls, a darkness that would soon consume me. The mansion had been my late wife's family home, a place of opulence and privilege. It was here that I, a respected anthropologist, sought solace after her tragic death. Little did I know that this ancestral abode held secrets beyond the comprehension of mortal minds. As I wandered through the dimly lit corridors, adorned with lavish Christmas decorations that seemed to mock the solemnity of the night, a sense of unease settled upon me. The air itself felt heavy with the weight of centuries, as if the very walls harbored a malevolent force. In the study, a room filled with ancient artifacts and family heirlooms, I discovered a peculiar objecta, an ornate African dagger with an inscription that hinted at its mystical properties. Its gleaming blade beckoned to me, and without fully understanding the consequences, I allowed it to pierce my flesh. The moment the dagger penetrated my skin, a searing pain shot through my body. Yet, as the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, I felt a surge of otherworldly power coursing through my veins. The room spun, and I collapsed onto the cold floor, unaware that I had become something beyond the realm of the living. When I awoke, the mansion seemed transformed. The air, once heavy with the scent of aging wood and musty tapestries, now carried a metallic tang. It was as if the very essence of life had been replaced by an insatiable hunger and unquenchable thirst that could only be satiated by the crimson elixir of the living. As I ventured into the snowy night, the world around me took on a surreal quality. The moonlit landscape was both hauntingly beautiful and oppressively desolate. I moved with an unnatural grace, my senses heightened and attuned to the subtlest vibrations in the air. The small town nearby was wrapped in a peaceful slumber, its inhabitants blissfully unaware of the spectral presence that now wandered among them. I moved through the quiet streets like a phantom, drawn to the flickering lights of Christmas decorations that adorned the quaint homes. In one such home, I discovered a family nestled together by the warm glow of a fireplace. The scent of roasted chestnuts wafted through the air, and the laughter of children echoed in the night. A pang of something resembling longing stirred within me, and distant memory of a time when I, too, had reveled in the joyous festivities of the season. Yet, as I watched the family, a dark compulsion seized me. The hunger that gnawed at my insides could not be denied. With an agonizing conflict between my humanity and the insatiable thirst that now defined me, I succumbed to the dark urges that haunted my newfound existence. The first taste of blood was a symphony of sensations, of the coppery richness, the pulsating warmth, and the fleeting echo of a life forcibly severed. The family, once a tableau of festive cheer, now lay in a state of shock and terror, their once joyful celebration transformed into a nightmare. As I retreated into the shadows, the reality of what I had become sank in. I was a predator in the guise of a man, condemned to a perpetual cycle of feeding and remorse. The mansion, now a mausoleum of my sins, loomed in the distance, a constant reminder of the curse that bound me to the darkness. The following nights blurred into a macabre routine. I roamed the town like a phantom, preying on those who unknowingly invited me into their homes. Each act of feeding left me with a hollow emptiness, a void that no amount of blood could fill. The Christmas lights that once held a semblance of joy now seemed to mock my eternal torment. In the quiet moments between my nocturnal excursions, I found myself drawn to the study where the accursed dagger resided. Its gleaming blade, stained with the blood of countless victims, reflected the grotesque visage of a creature caught between life and death. As Christmas Day approached, the weight of my sins pressed upon me like a suffocating shroud. The town, now gripped by a palpable sense of dread, had become a ghostly reflection of its former self. Families huddled together, their festive celebrations tainted by the fear that lurked in the shadows. The memory of my wife, the one I had sought to join in death, haunted me like a specter. In my moments of lucidity, I questioned the purpose of my existence. Was I a cursed soul condemned to perpetuate a cycle of suffering, or was there a glimmer of humanity buried beneath the monstrous facade? On Christmas Eve, a night that should have been a time of reflection and redemption, I found myself standing at the edge of a frozen lake. The moon cast a silvery glow on the icy surface, and the stillness of the night was broken only by the distant howls of the winter wind. As I stared into the abyss of the frozen water, a profound sense of loneliness gripped me. The reflection that stared back at me was a creature of the night, a monster clad in the remnants of a once distinguished life. The dagger clutched in my hand seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. In a moment of desperate clarity, I plunged the dagger into the ice, shattering the frozen surface. The echoes of the impact resonated through the silent night as if heralding a reckoning. The blood-stained blade, now tainted with the essence of my immortal existence, gleamed in the moonlight. With each strike against the ice, a torrent of memories flooded my mind, the warmth of the loving embrace, the joy of shared laughter, and the promise of a future that now lay shattered like the fractured ice beneath my feet. The curse that bound me to this existence had robbed me of the very essence of what it meant to be human. As the last remnants of the shattered ice drifted away, I stood on the precipice of the frozen lake, the weight of the dagger in my hand. The town, wrapped in an oppressive silence, awaited the resolution of a tormented soul caught between the realms of life and death. With a sense of resignation, I turned the dagger towards myself. The cold blade pressed against my chest, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. The specter of my wife appeared before me, her eyes filled with a sorrow that transcended the boundaries of life and death. In that moment of vulnerability, a revelation washed over me, a glimmer of the humanity I thought lost. The dagger, once an instrument of torment, became a conduit for redemption. As I drove the blade into my own heart, a surge of indescribable pain engulfed me, and the world around me blurred into darkness. When I awoke, it was not in the frigid depths of the frozen lake, but in a realm between the living and the dead. The air was thick with spectral energy, and the moon cast an ethereal glow upon the barren landscape that stretched before me. I stood on the threshold of a surreal dreamscape, where the boundaries of time and space seemed to meld into a shifting tapestry of memories and regrets. The mansion, now a distant silhouette against the otherworldly horizon, beckoned like a haunting specter. As I traversed the surreal landscape, I encountered echoes of the lives I had touched and the lives I had taken. Faces from my past, both familiar and forgotten, materialized like apparitions. Each encounter carried with it the weight of unspoken truths and unresolved emotions. Among the ghostly figures, I found myself face to face with my wife, her presence luminous and serene. Her eyes, windows to a soul untethered by mortality, held a profound sadness. In the silent communion between us, I sought absolution for the sins that had bound me to an existence of perpetual darkness. She spoke without words, a communication that transcended the limitations of mortal language. Her ethereal touch, a caress that carried the warmth of forgiveness, seemed to mend the fractures within my tormented soul. At that moment, I understood the depth of the curse that had gripped me, the curse of eternal solitude. As I journeyed through the spectral landscape, guided by the moonlight that cast elongated shadows upon the ethereal ground, I encountered the remnants of the town I had once haunted. The streets, once wrapped in a shroud of fear, now exuded a tranquil beauty. The Christmas lights that had flickered in dread now radiated a gentle glow. In the town square, a congregation of ghostly figures gathered. Families, their forms translucent but infused with a serene energy, reveled in a celebration of existence unburdened by the shackles of fear. Laughter echoed through the spectral air, and the joyous sounds reverberated like a symphony of redemption. As I approached the mansion, its once imposing facade seemed to soften, its malevolent aura dissipating into the surreal expanse. The ornate African dagger, now cleansed of the darkness that had tainted its blade, stood as testament to the transformative power of self-sacrifice. Within the mansion, the study beckoned once more. The accursed dagger, now placed upon an ornate pedestal, radiated a subdued brilliance. The artifacts and family heirlooms bore witness to a history etched with both tragedy and redemption. The study, once a chamber of darkness, now exuded a gentle luminescence. As I entered the study, I sensed a presence behind me. Turning, I found my wife standing in the doorway, a manifestation of love and forgiveness. In her eyes, I glimpsed the understanding that transcended the boundaries of mortal comprehension. Together, we approached the pedestal upon which the dagger rested. The spectral moonlight bathed us in a transcendent glow as we laid our hands upon the hilt. In that moment of unity, the dagger levitated above the pedestal, its once menacing aura replaced by an ethereal radiance. As the dagger hovered before us, a portal of light manifested, an ephemeral gateway between the mortal realm and the spiritual plane. The town square, filled with the joyous echoes of spectral celebration, beckoned beyond the luminous threshold. With a silent understanding, my wife and I stepped into the portal, leaving behind the mansion and the cursed existence that had defined us. The spectral landscape unfolded before us, a realm of timeless beauty and ethereal wonder. In this otherworldly realm, where the constraints of mortality held no dominion, we found solace. The echoes of past torments dissolved into the luminescent expanse, and the weight of the cursed dagger was lifted. In the company of my wife, I embraced the boundless possibilities of an existence unburdened by the sins of the past. As the portal closed behind us, the mansion and the town faded into distant memories. The moon, now a distant luminescent orb in the spectral sky, witnessed the culmination of a journey that transcended the boundaries of life and death. In the spectral embrace of an existence unbound by time, my wife and I ventured into the endless expanse. The Christmas lights that once flickered in dread now adorned the surreal landscape, casting a gentle glow upon the boundless realm that stretched before us. And so, in the embrace of a realm beyond mortal comprehension, we found redemption, a transcendence of the darkness that had gripped our souls. The Christmas moon, a silent witness to the cycles of existence, continued to cast its luminous glow upon a world that existed between the realms of the living and the dead, a world where the echoes of tormented souls found solace in the timeless embrace of redemption.